content, information, or opinions.
Amp2.tv presents You and Your Doctor, teaching you to live a longer and healthier life. Proudly sponsored by All County Healthcare, where people are the heart of our business. All County Healthcare is a Medicare certified agency where one call will service all your home care health needs. For more information, call 954-717-7027 or visit our website, allcountyhealthcare.com. Now, let's get informed to living a longer and healthier life. Here is your host for today's show.
Welcome back to another episode of You and Your Doctor, sponsored by All County Healthcare. Our phone number is 954-717-7027. We're a Medicare certified home health care agency servicing Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. I am your host, Louise Gomez, and today we have Candy Cohn, who is a certified senior advisor, and she has Senior Living Advisors of South Florida. Her phone number is 954-540-2595, and the website is southflorida.oasisssenioradvisors.com. Welcome back to the show, Candy.
Thank you. It's great to be here again.
Thanks for coming. I was so happy to hear you were coming, because I feel like in South Florida, it's so important for people to get to know you, because there's so many people out there that are going through this, process of where am I going to put my parents, or I have a loved one, or what do I do? And it could be a daunting task. And so I know you come in handy. So tell us a little bit more detailed information about what could you do to help the community?
Thank you. Thanks for asking that. It can be very daunting when people, no one's ready for what has to happen when people age. First of all, people don't want to think about it.
So true.
And a lot of people don't plan at all, either financially, or they just don't think about, what will I do? I have two parents, one of them's going to go first. No one wants to think about that, and everything changes when all of a sudden something happens, whether it be that someone falls, breaks their hip. That's always a big, horrendous thing. Memory issues start, cognitive decline, and a lot of times the family members are in denial or just not sure. They think, okay, mom seems fine most of the time, but then at night, and then that's called sundowning.
I've heard of that.
Right.
So at nighttime, for some reason, they get worse. It kicks in worse?
Right. As the sun goes down, their behaviors change.
Oh, interesting.
So someone might think, okay, mom's really okay, but then they find out, okay, she flooded the apartment last night.
Right.
I got a call the other day. That literally happened.
Oh.
And so kids are confused because, first of all, the parents are often good at hiding it. They act like everything's okay.
Right.
And I got a call today. Someone said, my mother's been living a lie.
Aww.
And now it's coming out. Now she's telling me she's running out of money when she acted like she had everything under control.
Yeah.
She has bill collectors coming after her, and the kids didn't know because they don't live near her. So it's a very confusing time. So basically, I come in to help people learn what the different options are as far as care, if they're going to stay at home, or should we start to look into moving them to a senior living community where they can get the care they need and they can have socialization, and that's a big piece.
Yes.
Right. So
Very
especially
important.
like if one of the spouses just died and all of a sudden mom's alone and maybe dad did everything, maybe he handled the finances, and the old school way of
course,
things,
of
it's not as much with our generation, but still there's always things. We all play roles when we are in a couple, a part of a couple, and it's moving someone to a community is safer. They can make friends. They can be part of a community where they know that they have people looking out for them, and they know they can call someone no matter what.
Sure. So Candy, what are different options? Because I know that maybe some people may feel like, oh my goodness, I would not want my parent in this big community, she's not social or whatever. Are there other options for maybe smaller locations, or what are all the different options that somebody might have once they speak to you?
There are a variety of
Okay.
options, and the way I explain to people what I do, I'm like a cross between a social worker and a realtor.
I like that.
So the social work piece, I sit and meet with the family and the senior, hopefully, although sometimes the adult children call me and
Yeah.
say, my parents don't know I'm calling you, but I need to start to figure out what to do with them. So sometimes I meet with the adult
Right.
children first.
Sure.
So the social work piece is gathering all that information and then giving them appropriate resources, understanding if they need care or if they just need to be part of a
Right.
community. And to find out what their budget is. That's a big piece.
Right.
And I try to get to know them as a person. You know, if I go to their home, I
Sure.
get to see how they live. They
Right.
might be a hoarder, you know, then I see all
Right.
of that.
Right.
And then we know there's some other issues. And
So you'd be able to get them the proper, like, once you make an assessment, it sounds like you'll be able to really point them in the right direction of what type of care they need. Maybe, like you said, they're a hoarder, or maybe they lost a spouse, or everyone's case is so different. So I think
Right.
going through you, you'll be able to fine tune, okay, this is kind of what they need, right?
Right. And then I refer out to all different people in the process. So I might
Nice.
refer to a psychotherapist,
Sure.
to a neurologist, certainly to someone that comes and organizes and helps them pack and get rid of
Sure,
things,
of
especially in the
course.
hoarding situations, but even for just the move. A realtor if they're going to sell their home before they move.
Right.
Elder law attorneys I refer to all the time because
Makes sense.
there's money
Sure.
available, first of all, through Medicaid and the VA that people don't know about, and they need an attorney to move money around, put money into a trust. They often need help with the application, so I refer directly to the VA for that.
Okay.
So I can be that point person, and my services are free.
That's amazing.
So like a realtor, I get paid a commission by the senior living community when I move someone.
That's a great way to see it, as like a realtor, because
Right.
people, they're getting all these amazing services and referrals, and then so they don't have to feel like, oh, I'm going to have to pay this or pay that. But maybe the family, like you said, if they have money or whatever their financial situation is, you would be able to advise them on maybe how to direct money, or maybe they would have an option that they didn't even know of. Maybe you found something that they can benefit from.
Right. So I don't give them that financial or legal advice,
But you,
just to be
yes,
really
to be clear.
clear.
You
but
send
I
them
send
to the
them
right.
to the appropriate.
Yes,
I stay
correct.
in my lane, and I know
Yes.
who to refer to. So I'm a certified senior advisor, and in getting that certification, that's a big part of it. So we learn the whole big picture of all the different things, pieces of the puzzle
Right.
for the seniors, and that's what it is. It's like a big puzzle. We're putting each piece together,
Nice.
and then we refer out to the appropriate people. And then for me, my piece, my complete piece is the senior living part, taking
Right.
them to senior living communities, going on the tours with them, and I have several associates, and so
nice.
yeah, so we're a team and we're busy, and one of us goes with each client on the tour, and we're the advocate for them because each salesperson at every
Yeah.
community meets with them in their senior living community, whereas we have met with them in their home. We
I
see how they
see.
live, we get to
Right.
know a little bit about their history, we hear their stories, and they love telling their stories,
Oh,
and we love hearing
sure.
them. Yeah.
I'm sure. So, how did you get into this industry? Is this something that you've always done, or did you kind of gradually fall into this, or how did that happen for you?
It really, kind of was the universe putting me into this position. I've been in healthcare marketing most of my adult
Okay.
life.
Nice.
And then 11 years ago, I needed to move my parents to assisted living. And somebody referred me to a senior placement advisor to help me. and my family. And I was so grateful. I couldn't believe this profession even existed because
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
it's not something everybody knows about.
Sure. Of course.
And I was doing some freelance marketing at the time, so I asked him when, after all was said and done and we moved my parents in and they were doing well, I asked if he needed help with his marketing. And I said, I'd love to tell the world about you.
Oh,
So he said, but I'm really looking to train someone to do senior placement with me. Would you be interested? And that's how I got started.
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
When you're, I always feel like it's following those breadcrumbs in life. When you're
Right.
following what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
it seems to me that you were so, you learned so much and you wanted to share that with others.
Right.
Because you benefited. So you were
Right.
like, I didn't know this, right?
Right.
So that's an amazing, I think that's another amazing component, to work with someone who's passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
Because there's a distinction between, you could tell when you're working with someone who's just like, okay, this is just my job, and someone like you who's like, oh no, this, because you experienced it.
Right.
So I think that really is another feather in your cap, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, and I'm open with my clients. I share. I mean, believe me, we went through, even though this man helped us and helped
Sure.
the transition for my parents go more smoothly, we still had plenty of emotional things
Oh,
going
yeah,
on.
I'm sure.
And I share all that with my clients so that I can help them understand that, yes, I truly get it. And here's what
Yes.
we did, here's what my family did, or here's what I've done with other clients. And that helps them to really believe that this could be the right answer, whatever it is that I'm telling them. So I ended up being an independent contractor with that placement advisor who helped my family. And then 6 years ago, I bought a franchise.
Oh,
So I own my own
amazing.
business now. It's called Oasis Senior Advisors, and I own the South Florida territory.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm part of a national company.
Great.
So that means I can help people moving, say someone lives in
Okay.
Florida and they want to move back to New York to be near their children, I can help them.
Nice. Oh, that's true too. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have somebody, they're from New York, a lot of us from New York, and they say, my parents are going to move down, but we need to find a location for them. So,
Right, so then the advisor, the Oasis Senior Advisor in New York would do the intake up there, meet with the family, and then transfer it to me,
And then
we
you'll be
work
able to
together
work-
as a team.
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
yeah, it really is nice.
That really helps being part of a team, because it really gives you that, not only the brand recognition, but the support
Right.
from everybody,
Right.
which is what's needed.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I know you mentioned that you had helped your mom and dad. How was their transition in there, and how did they get used to that, and how did that work out for them?
It went really amazingly well. What happened was my dad became ill, and my dad actually had bipolar depression, and he was being treated, and he was
Okay.
usually okay. He functioned, but every 8 or 9 years he had an episode,
Yeah.
and usually it was because he went off his meds. And this is what happened 11 years ago. He ran out of his medication,
I'm
is what
sorry
happened.
about that.
So it was a rough time, and I knew that we had to do something, and that's when I called my brothers up north, and I said, I really think we should look into moving mom and dad to assisted living.
We're going to have a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue with that story, because I
Okay.
really want to hear that. Okay, we'll be right back, everybody.
All County Healthcare has exciting news for any and all patients with COPD or other respiratory ailments. Listen to what renowned pulmonologist Dr. Keith Robinson has to say.
Hello, I'm Dr. Keith Robinson, board-certified pulmonologist, medical director at Fusion Health Pulmonary Rehabilitation, and a board member with the American Lung Association of South Florida. We have exciting news for patients with COPD. We now offer IPV therapy at home, which has been demonstrated to improve airway clearance, decrease hospitalization, and improve quality of life of patients with COPD. Please call All County Healthcare for more information about this FDA-approved therapy.
For further information, call All County Healthcare now at 954-717-7027. That is 954-717-7027, or visit our website at allcountyhealthcare.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Remember, All County Healthcare always puts the patient's needs first. You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Sponsored by All County Healthcare. Our number is 954-717-7027. We have with us Candy Cohn. If you or a loved one, you know anybody who needs help, she will definitely point you in the right direction. She is a senior living advisor, and her phone number is 954-540-2595. And Candy, what's your website, if you can share?
OasisSeniorAdvisors.com/South Florida.
Got it. So, we were talking about your dad and your mom, and I was asking, how was that transition?
Right.
And I think you were saying your dad got the help he needed and whatnot.
Right. So with my dad, it became a really urgent situation. And luckily, I had been referred to the senior placement advisor. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. My first thing to do was to my first priority was to try to get him into a psych unit at a hospital. So I was working on that.
Yeah.
But then while I was working on that, I was looking ahead. Okay, what happens when they come home? When he comes home?
Yeah.
My mom depended on him for driving. He was the driver
Right.
and other things. And when he was out of control and she was alone with him, that was not good. So I got him into the psych unit at the hospital, and that's a whole long story in itself, but I can help people that are going through this kind of thing. And there are mental health issues a lot that often come up, and they're not being addressed necessarily, and people don't know what to do and how to handle it. But after we got him treated and he got back on the right medications, he was fine. Yeah. So we got them into the assisted living, and they got used to it. They adjusted pretty quickly.
Nice.
They made friends, and one thing that was so nice is you get meals. They got 3 meals a day in a dining room with other people.
See, that's what I like to hear,
Yeah.
because I feel like that's what creates a community where they get the routine
Right.
of they know they're going to have those meals, they know they're going to see certain people or make
Right.
friends. I think that's so key.
Right. And what I noticed, when my parents had lived at Kings Point in Delray Beach.
Oh, nice.
And my mom wasn't really making friends. They were only there a few years. My
Okay.
dad made friends. He was going to the gym every day, and he made friends at the gym. But at the, I would go over there and they'd sometimes be just, in their house coat, my mom in her house coat, sitting around reading or whatever, late in the day. Whereas when they moved to the assisted living, when I went over, she was dressed and she had makeup on because she was going down to the meals. It was a big thing,
That's amazing.
And she felt good about herself. That's what was really important.
That's so important.
Right. And my parents weren't like really sociable people.
Okay.
But it livened them up, just having those connections. And then when my dad passed 2 years later,
Right.
my mom wasn't alone.
Right.
And that was huge. And people don't think about that.
That's another key component, because that's really thinking ahead. Because
Right.
you're like, okay, the two of them are older, but when one passes before the other, at least they'll have an established group.
Right.
So
right.
that's another thing, like you said, most people don't think of that. Now
Right.
I'm like, that makes sense. That
Right.
you would do that.
And moving them together
Yes.
is easier because they can help each other adjust. A lot of people say, oh, when one passes, then I'll deal
Yeah.
with it. But no, you shouldn't. You should do it when they're together and they can help each other because they're their best friends.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So now, what did you do with your mom? Now, I think you mentioned your mom. What did your mom have again? She had.
So at that time, she had nothing. And
Okay.
then my dad was the one that needed the care. But then a few years later,
Yeah.
things started. So she started to develop dementia. And she also had a colostomy.
Yeah.
And then she was hard of hearing, and that got worse.
Yeah.
But then she started getting lightheaded and falling, and that was
Oh.
like the final straw.
Yeah.
So after the third visit to the emergency room, the doctor said, Candy, this is just going to keep getting worse, and she really needs to have someone with her anytime she stands up.
Wow.
And her legs were strong. That wasn't the
yeah,
issue,
yeah.
but she would get this
She would get-
lightheadedness and fall. So I knew I either had to hire a home health aide to be with her at the
Sure.
assisted living, which we really couldn't have afforded. And also, I don't think she would have liked having someone just sit
Yeah.
there. But being in the industry, I knew about these residential care home assisted livings. So it's a house, it's a group home that has an assisted living license. There's usually 6 residents with 2 caregivers.
Nice.
And it's great for people that need a lot of attention. Most times people in there have some cognitive decline.
Okay.
You're not going to socialize a lot. There's only
Okay.
6 people. So it's for people that are kind of beyond.
Yeah, they need a little of the extra care,
They
right?
need more care, and they're not socializing really anymore. And it's a good way to keep people out of a skilled nursing facility.
Oh.
Because that's the worst. I mean, you don't want to be
Yeah.
in a skilled nursing facility.
Yeah.
So you might have to be in a skilled nursing facility if you need a Hoyer lift to move someone.
Oh, I see.
In Florida, you
Yes.
can't use a Hoyer lift in assisted living at all. In some other
Oh.
states, you can.
Okay, interesting.
Every state is different, so that's a
Interesting.
thing to know also. Yeah. So
Wow.
for my mom, that worked out great. They knew her really well. They loved her. And I mean, the owner, when my mom passed, she cried as much as we did. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So-
they build a connection.
Yeah, they really do.
So what do you suggest, like if someone's visiting a family member and they have dementia or they have something, do you have experience with maybe good visits? Like-
That's a great question. Yeah, and that could be a challenge.
Right.
You know, I know with my dad, it was kind of hard. I never felt like I really got the hang of what to do, and you know, I would bring some pictures, and it was hard. But with my mom, it took a little bit of time, and it was during COVID, so I had to wear a
Oh,
mask,
yeah.
and we had to sit outside.
Yeah.
So she's hard of hearing. I'm wearing a mask.
Oh,
she
God.
can't hear me. So first of all, I bought a dry erase board.
Oh, okay.
And I would write what I was saying. And then I started doing Zoom calls with my brothers who are up north. And
Okay.
because my mom's hard of hearing, I bought a speaker, an external speaker.
Oh, nice.
And I would, you know, we were doing the Zoom calls on my phone mostly, but with the speaker, I would hold it up to her ear and she could hear. And then it was so interesting because she wanted to speak Yiddish. That was her first language. And oftentimes people with dementia revert back
Right?
to their
They wanna-
language of
yeah,
origin.
they want to revert back.
Yeah. So she would start speaking Yiddish to us, and my brothers and I would be like,
Oh, I
"Mom,
love
we
it."
don't understand." We knew the common
Yeah.
words that every Jewish kid knows, and
Sure.
every New Yorker knows.
Right.
And we're from Philadelphia. We're not from New York. But we started to learn. We asked her to teach us, and then we started downloading, lists of common Yiddish words, and it became fun. It was it was such a nice way to spend time with her. And then she started singing this Yiddish song one day.
Okay.
It's called "Shein wie de Lavuna." It means as beautiful as the moon.
Oh.
And she was so enthralled with it, and she became, emotional. And I looked it up. I just sounded the words up and looked it up online, and
Okay.
I found it.
Oh my God.
I found several different versions of it,
Amazing.
and I picked the one that I loved the best, and I brought it and played it for her every week. And
I love
And I
that.
printed the lyrics, so we would read along as she was listening.
Oh, I love that.
And it just was so special for us. And the words, like I said, it's a love song, so I saved the words, and I actually read them at the end of my eulogy at her funeral. And I told her that I will always remember her by that song. And
that's
it just
beautiful.
was so very special for us.
And I think it's because you really brought it to the present moment. You weren't frustrated. You weren't focusing on what she couldn't remember or what comparing her to the past. You were just enjoying the present moment, and that creativity that you did, I'm sure, brought so much peace. So I think that's a good tip for a lot of people who are going through that, because I would imagine it's frustrating, right?
It
'Cause
is,
you're
right.
comparing them to what they used to be. But you really created a special moment, so that's
Right.
beautiful.
And every time I went to see her the last few years, I was always listening for like what's she going to reveal that she's never told me?
Oh, right.
And that was fun too.
That is interesting. I didn't think of that because maybe
this was it. Like I knew every day was precious, that I didn't know when she was going to pass. So that was fun. And then I would bring pictures. So in the beginning, I brought a box of pictures and we'd go through them, and she would be excited in the beginning, and then she would reach a saturation point.
Yeah.
And she'd get upset sometimes.
Yeah, she'd get a little triggered maybe.
So I narrowed it down to like 6 pictures, and I brought the same pictures every week. And she would say the same thing when she looked at each one, and it was great. I really, and I always brought a picture of my dad, and I brought their wedding picture, and she would say, "Oh, Billy, he was the handsomest man, handsomest boy in all of Philadelphia."
That's a beautiful story.
And it was sweet, yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So if anybody is even thinking about this, even for like maybe you're thinking down the road for 2 or 3 years, you know, so maybe if you're thinking about this or you want to prepare, you really need to get in touch with Candy Cohn. You really need to call her, 954-540-2595. She will definitely assist you, answer all your questions, get you all the information you need. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next week with you and your doctor. Take care.
Thank you for letting us share with you a longer and healthier lifestyle. If you have